A regular meeting of the Delta County Commissioners is being held this date pursuant to the following call. In a letter to the Commissioners dated February 27, 2025, and reading as follows. The Honorable Members of the Delta County Board of Commissioners. Dear Commissioners, a regular meeting of the Delta County Board of Commissioners is scheduled for Tuesday, March 4, 2025 at 5:15 p.m. in the conference room at the Delta County Service Center. Sincerely yours, Nancy Kozraki, Delta County Clerk. Please rise for a word of prayer. Lord, as we begin this meeting, we are thankful for our many blessings. We ask for guidance to help our commissioners make decisions in the best interest of the citizens of our county. And Lord, we pray for the safety of our military men and women. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Melner? Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Commissioner Van Genhoven?
Here.
And Commissioner Jensen?
Here.
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's meeting. Thank you for the audience and being in attendance. We will start off with special orders of business. Number 1, rules and procedure. Commissioner Williams?
So apparently, we need to make a motion to accept the changes to the rules of procedure so that then we can actually have the updated document as our working document, and then we can make additional changes from there on out. But because we didn't make a motion at the last meeting, it's actually not our rules of procedure that we're working from. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the changes that were the formatting changes from the last meeting with the changes that we made to the committees to correct the committee listing, and accept this as our new rules of procedure.
We have a motion. Do we have support?
We have support? Sure.
Okay. Motion by Williams, support by Johnson. Any other discussion?
And this, we are going to still make little tweaks here and there, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of minutes of previous meetings. County Board minutes of 2/18/25 a.m. and 2/18/25 p.m.
Move approval?
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? I do have a discussion on 2/18/25 p.m. Under number 1, rules of procedure. There was a statement that said motion carried. However, in reviewing, there was no motion on that. So that'll just have to be. Yep, so that'll have to be corrected. Can I get an amended motion?
So moved?
Support.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of agenda. We do have 2 items to add to the agenda, which you can see was sent to us in our next cloud. New business, adding number 20 under new business, resignation of J. Kell, request for lump sum payout and to fill airport operations specialist position. And then we also have an addition of number 21 to discuss a potential additional meeting.
I'll move to adopt the agenda with the 2 additional items.
Support.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Presentation of written communications. Communications received and forwarded. You can see them on your next cloud. We did have both received and forwarded. Can I get a motion to place on file?
So moved?
Support.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Reports of standing statutory or special committees and others. There was none. Public comment on agenda items. This would be the time for our public to approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name, and this is on agenda items only.
There's your sign-up sheet.
Oh, Gary. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gary Gustafson. I live in Ensign Township. I have a complaint about how the Veterans Affairs Committee was selected. I don't believe that procedure was followed at all. You put a lot of responsibility on Dave that wasn't really called for, in my opinion. And he made some decisions that maybe weren't perfect, but at the end of the day, ultimately, the decision was on the county. And Dave didn't include everybody's application. He didn't give everybody's application to the county. And also in one of his criteria for what he used as a selection process, he used visits, personal encounters that he had with people at the service office, which I believe is privileged private information and shouldn't be used in a job interview, period. The public wasn't notified properly in the newspaper. Veteran service organizations weren't notified. Some of them did know about it, but that's only because they were asked to have letters of recommendation from those organizations. So as far as I'm aware, from the FOIA request that I did to the county, none of that was done. So I couldn't point a finger at one thing that was done more incorrectly than the next. I think it needs to be revisited. I'm not saying that you didn't get very qualified applicants, and some of them I'm excited to see there, honestly. And I was excited to see the amount of applicants that you got, but you would have gotten a hell of a lot more had you done it properly. And it really needs to be revisited, and there's a lot of questions. I only have 3 minutes. Only halfway through. I'm sure there's probably more, but if you want to talk to me later about what I can see. But Dave definitely needs to be following the law and the grant guidelines and all of that, and so does the county. We've had problems with the county on that before, and we don't need to be getting into any other problems, and we need to get this Veterans Affairs Committee started properly so that everybody feels like they had their chance at it and that it was out there for everybody. And as long as we do it legally and set it up the way it's supposed to, I'm not mad that I didn't get on there. I told somebody else, hey, it just gives me more time to go fishing, so. That's all I have for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gustafson. Any other public comment on agenda items?
We have one remote public comment.
Okay.
So I will play that. It is from Thomas Pepin.
Concerned citizen, Delta County. Reminder to Ashley and the people that come to the podium, speak into the microphone so we can hear you at home. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Any other public comment on agenda items? Last call. Public comment on agenda items. Okay, we'll move on to committee reports, starting with the administrator's report. Ashley?
At the next commission meeting, I'll be presenting a contract to
Oh,
ratify. with
Ashley,
our-
they can't hear you, hon.
It's on.
Can you speak like close?
At the next, is it plugged in? Can you hear me now?
Mm-mm. Do you want to try Nancy's?
How about now?
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
At the next commission meeting, I'll present a contract for ratification with the newly appointed lead attorney for MIDC. It is important to note that the financial terms of this contract remain identical to those that the previous lead attorney agreed to, and it was presented to the commissioner, so nothing in there, it's just a change of the names. Regarding the airport, I convened with the FAA, MDOT, and Prina Newhoff to address the closure of existing grants. Prina Newhoff was the former airport consultants and are currently compiling the necessary documentation to finalize these grants. We're going to meet again on March 18th to discuss more of the current airport consultants' grants and look at more of a progress than a closeout. I've amended the airport security plan with the assistance of our emergency management coordinator and submitted it to the TSA regulators. We're also in the process of amending the airport emergency plan to reflect the FAA compliance letter of the water rescue portion. Additionally, the city of Escanaba approached me or the electric department to apply for a grant to help reroute the circuit underneath the runway. You'll see a letter of support later on in today's agenda. The PFC audit for fiscal year 23 has been completed and submitted over to the FAA. And also I've updated the Q1 or quarter one fiscal year 25 numbers with the assistance of the FAA. I've attended the EOC meeting, which provided the updates on emergency response training, community activities, including Handle with Care and Medical Control Authority. We also discussed regional projects, and some of them are currently on hold due to FEMA's implementation of a manual review process. The meeting also covered the UP State Fair's emergency planning meeting, the I Am Responding program. They gave a brief update and let all the participants at the meeting know on how to put up like hazards and such, and who to contact if they need assistance, like townships and volunteer firefighters. So, and then we also talked about active shooter training for our school districts. We have 2 of them that are going to be occurring here in 2025, so that's great to hear. And the airport rescue plan, we have to have a table talk and start planning for the triennial exercise for 2025. So it was a full meeting, and also we received a update with that medical control authority. We had a presentation by Dr. Bigsby, and congratulations with him on his retirement. So we have Matt LaCrosse that's going to be stepping into his role. Commissioner Jensen and Commissioner Williams met with the Sheriff's Department to discuss the animal control ordinance. So thank you guys for stepping in and doing that for me. It really helped out. I did compile the information that you requested, and it's been uploaded to the next file. Our maintenance director and our administrative assistant has scheduled OSHA training for maintenance staff and sheriff's deputies. So we're really excited moving forward with that. We're using our Comp 1. Which is through our workers' comp fund. I have a little update on the UP State Fair grant that's through the Michigan DNR Trust Fund. We have approval on the extension, but we had to submit another extension. We're waiting on approval of that, but they did contract with Dynamic Design to be their prime professional. They have been very helpful in moving this process forward. We're looking for this project to be completed as long as the extension goes through October, November time. I just recently submitted 3 grant reimbursements, which were the fire rings for the parks that we've done, and then 2 for the security upgrades that were performed. So we'll be receiving revenue from that soon. Also, a little update on the materials management planning grant. Eagle has consolidated the requirements for the MMP grant program and the development of the CUPMMPC annual work program. That's a lot.
Yes.
To facilitate reimbursement, each county must designate an MMP grant manager. I appointed myself as the grant manager just because that's past practice with the county. So I submitted the work budget that has been completed with the assistance of QPAD. I had to fill in the blanks with administrative wage reimbursement. And then Eagle is going to contact the grant manager, myself, for onboarding of the work program. Reimbursements are expected within 2 to 4 weeks through our Sigma platform, and then QPAD will provide ongoing communication regarding reporting and budget development. I actually called recently for a building and grounds meeting. This is one of the agenda items, is the circuit court probation. So MDOC probation and parole is receiving an additional agent, which is requiring office modifications. In accordance with PA 232 of 1953, these expenses are county responsibility. So I've initiated discussions with the building and grounds, and then it'll involve eventually finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our administrator? If not, I'll be seeking a motion to place on file.
Motion to place on file.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Johnson, support by Jensen. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Finance Committee minutes of 2/20/25.
So in finance, you're going to see one item for those that have the minutes from that. There's an old business item that actually shows deferred indefinitely. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. That's just deferred until we get the rest of the information needed to be able to make a decision on that part-time custodian 1 position. Also under old business, The administration, HR specialist slash administrative clerk, that one we actually requested to be deferred until the next finance meeting as we were looking for additional information to support that. Under our new business, item number 1, which will also be item 16 for discussion on the per diem and travel reimbursement. That will actually take place tonight. And then the other item, which will be 13 on our agenda, and that's for dispatch to be able to fill a position. One of the initial stipulations on that was that we wanted a hard date in writing from the individual, which we've now received. Part of the reason to start to fill that now is it takes approximately 14 weeks for a dispatcher to complete their training. So that puts them into the summer months already. Let's see, what was the other one here? There was also from the a request for the total leave hours currently in the leave banks for all non-union employees. And then to inquire on the other counties' leave policies. And
Matt, do you mind if I add something to
Yeah,
that real
go
quick?
ahead, please.
So the objective there on the request for the leave hours that we currently have is to understand the county's liability relative to payout of sick time for employees if we have employees leave, what is our liability for that payout? So that was the request to have that information.
Thank
Since
you.
we
Yeah.
don't have that information.
Yeah, so,
readily
yeah.
available.
And that was the big parts from that.
Can I get a motion to place on file?
So moved.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Personnel Committee minutes of 2/28/25. So Commissioner Johnson and myself are on the Personnel Committee, and we met last week, and you can see the minutes in our agenda packet. We discussed, spent a majority of our time discussing the personnel policies and procedure manual that hasn't been, that hasn't had a major overhaul since 1980. So we were able to get through about 90% of that. We only have one more section and then the appendices to work through. So that should be coming forward assumed by the next meeting, or if not, the meeting afterwards. Dispatch, you will see on the agenda tonight. The per diem and travel reimbursement policy was discussed, as well as that's gone back and forth from finance to personnel. That's on the agenda this evening as well. We did have a closed session where no action was taken. And that's about it. Anything else, Commissioner Johnson?
Just that we deferred recommendation
Oh,
to create a hiring committee
yes.
to the full board.
Yes, the hiring committee for the Veterans Director's position. Okay. Seeking a motion to place on file?
A motion that we place the personnel minutes on file.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Oh, aye as well on that one, sorry. Department updates. Do we have any department heads that would like to provide updates at this time? Seeing none, we move on to general orders of business. We have no unfinished business, so the first item for this evening for new business is payment of the bills.
I have examined all claims presented and recommend payment of the following, that the county clerk be directed to issue orders on the county treasurer to the claimants for the amounts allowed. Grand total of bills, $396,817.98. Commissioner expenses, $1,033.
Move we pay our bills?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion for paying the bills by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Nancy.
Johnson.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Vangenhoven.
Yes. Bills are paid. All right, moving on to number 2, treasurer's investment report. Welcome, Ms. Godfrey.
Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions and also to recommend to the board that you put the investment reports on file.
Motion to place on file.
Okay. We have a motion to place on file by Commissioner Johnson. Can I get support?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Williams. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Number 3, Airport Advisory Board update. Mr. Karn?
So, last meeting, I started in, I had some,
Mr. Karn, can you please? Thank
How's
you.
I had some information sent out to the commissioners. And was everyone able to review some of that? And how about the podcast? So, the importance of the airport to the community is the big impact that has on the community overall. And we're getting ready to hire for a new manager, so. A couple of the things that I had there in the podcast, it's, one of the managers went and got his doctorates, and we had, he's willing to come and give different ideas to the board. One of the things is with the changeover of the board, the commissioners, and then our advisory board. Our advisory board's been going on for quite a while, and we have our plans and ideas that we've been doing, but to get what the full board would like to see done with the airport, and the airport is one of the biggest assets for the community and does have a major impact on things. So what with the activity that's happening, not just commercial, but we have freight coming in, we have Air Med, and then GA. So one of the applicants that came to us previously, which I proposed, was this Christopher Hopkins. And he has a pretty long aviation background. He is willing to come and do a Zoom with, and also Michael Jones from the podcast that I sent out. So I guess I'd like to be able to, if we could set something up for that. And
So would this be like a committee of the whole?
So, yeah, we'd be
It would
looking for a
It
committee.
would be a joint meeting between the Airport Advisory Board and the county commissioners. Is this something that we want to entertain, I would ask?
Well, one of the things that I was just thinking of as you were talking is, we are entering into the process of updating our master plan, and clearly the airport is going to be a big part of that master plan. And so I would anticipate that this is good timing to get this kind of information, get this kind of feedback, and then that would coincide with what our community also, how our community feels about the airport, which I think would support that. So it seems to be good timing to bring these groups together and to get this information.
The information from Dr. Jones, I thought, was really spot on.
Yeah.
I thought most of it, within a few exceptions, was exactly spot on for where we were. And, I mean, there's a lot of credibility with the individual that his thesis is now used as a template nationwide for airports just like ours. So, there's definitely information that
there's
would
a
be
lot-
very
a lot
helpful
of
from him.
Things that we could be doing that we haven't. But what's really happening is I think we're seeing a big change in our tourism and people coming up into the area. So are we preparing the airport for the future? And that's by listening to these individuals giving us different ideas on how we can maybe even bring in some other airlines or we should be looking at for the future.
I would love to see us have this meeting,
I'm
but,
not sure this is.
Would this be more of an informational meeting, or are we looking for decisions at this meeting?
well, if it's a committee of the
Yeah, I
whole,
think
we
so.
wouldn't be able to make decisions.
Well, that's
That's
why,
why we're at.
that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
That's why he's
gotcha.
asking, yeah. Thank you.
Where if we do a joint meeting, we can actually.
Well,
make
and do
decisions.
we need to make decisions, or are you guys?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah, that's
So
the other
that's
part.
why I would be leaning more towards committee of the whole, just because it seems like it's more of an informational
Informational.
meeting.
And
Okay.
it's easier that way to be able to solicit the information from the public as a
Yep.
committee of a whole versus a joint meeting where it's still in a very, I guess, lack of a better term, rigid format.
Yeah.
If
I'd
it's
like
a
to hear what our
regular-
administrator has to say about it.
I guess my question would be, would this be before, airport, before we hire an airport manager or after? Would this be valuable information for our future airport manager?
Well, I would think it would be valuable information. Do we have like an ETA or a time on when we'll have a,
Well, that's what the addition
Roughly?
of item 21 is to discuss an additional meeting.
okay. So maybe after that, then it could be scheduled after we hire.
How do you
the
feel
One of
about that,
these
Mr.
things,
Karn?
These individuals have the the qualified airport manager.
Mm-hmm.
Versus having somebody that hasn't had the experience come in,
Okay.
and what the difference could be in our airport.
And so these folks that you're talking about are probably going to be doing more development, like economic development, how we can use our airport to increase tourism, more than just the functional operation of an airport, right? It's like the future.
Both.
Okay.
I mean, yes, this, Michael Jones is, his presentation of both of them would be all on airport management.
Okay.
So, and then the importance of having qualified individuals in there, in the management side, and over a long term, where we've been going through managers so frequently.
Yeah.
And how important and how valuable that is to the community.
So that clearly would be advantageous for our new airport manager.
Are
That-
you,
that conversation.
are you looking for these people to potentially be hired by the county?
No, not to be hired. The only one that was suggested was the Christopher Hopkins, because he was already, had already applied.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, has some proposals that are still out there as far as management and what to do.
Mr. Karn, would this be kind of like a clinic for the board? I mean, could we classify it as like a clinic for the board, the airport advisory board, and the new manager? And if we're classifying it as a clinic, what would these people, would Mr. Hopkins and I can't remember the other guy's name, would they be willing to do it? Are they doing it for a fee, or would they be willing to do it for a charge, or what are we looking?
Well, the reason I started looking into this quite a bit was going through the hiring process. So, one of them, the one that put in his application to us, and the proposal was to include doing the portfolio and sending out, and getting us, managers that he would present to us, and he would actually come and run the airport. So then the other one was Michael Jones, and he uses a company called AD. Was
ADK.
ADK. So, and the ADK would, put together a list of probably about 10 qualified applicants that have already been airport managers. So.
Because
there's
yeah.
Two different things.
We're in the last, this week is the last week that we have for second interviews for our airport manager. We interviewed 3 candidates, or we initially interviewed 3 candidates, and now we're doing follow-up interviews this week. So, to say that Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Jones would present us a list of qualified candidates, I could see that working out if none of these 3 people work out, but we kind of have a path forward for this already. So based on that, if we hire one of these 3 qualified candidates as our airport manager, would they be willing to come in and do a joint session of the commission and the airport advisory board for learning purposes, like educational purposes? Or is this, okay.
Yes, they would.
I could see that being extremely beneficial to all of us.
I guess it goes back to Commissioner Johnson's question as to whether or not, is this a paid, are we paying these folks to come in and do this? What are we committing to? I guess would be the, I don't want to
Yeah,
put
no,
words in your mouth.
that's pretty
but-
much it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would be probably a per hour
Okay,
basis on a Zoom, which is a pretty minimal amount.
So then would we, I guess we would do a request for proposal or ask for a proposal?
yeah, we'd have to get something in writing.
Yep.
Right,
You know,
absolutely.
yep.
and do you think it would be more beneficial that we do this after we hire the airport manager and have them here so that they are able to take part in the conversation as well?
I think it would be better if you did it before.
Before, okay.
Okay, so I think at this point, we would need
That's
a,
why I came to you last time, but I ran out of time.
I'm
Gotcha.
sorry.
I think we would need a proposal, and then we would accept the proposal, or modify the proposal, and then, once we know that, we would schedule the meeting.
And I would say the ship's probably already sailed as far as being able to get it done before, because we want to hire an admin as soon as we possibly can.
Yes,
And I think the admin would be, it'd be a great education for them too.
I feel the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one thing that I handed out is just on our website for the county.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some, if you look down there,
Mm-hmm.
it shows some of the websites and different ideas on our website.
Yeah. Okay,
So if you- and then you could just look through those.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Will.
Shall we move on? Okay. Number 4, under new business, Title III proposed projects. Ashley?
One moment, just
You're fine.
something down,
Take your
sorry.
time. You're fine.
Unfortunately, our emergency management coordinator could not be here tonight, so I just wanted to present to you the proposed projects for the Title III county funds from the Secured Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act of 2000. This includes Ensign Township. They're looking for a self-contained breathing apparatus and bottles for that, totaling $9,194.75. Garden Township is looking for a brush truck, totaling $36,533.33. Masonville Township is looking to purchase PPE and other assorted fire and wildland fire equipment. I just didn't know if I had a typo, sorry. For $44,530. Nema Township is looking to purchase water tender and associated water tender truck equipment for $88,143.91. This is all due because they are against the National Forest. This is restricted money, can only be used for these purposes. The Emergency Management Coordinator is requesting that the board approve the notice for a 45-day comment period. He is also asking if there is, no comments are received, then to approve this list as is. However, if he does receive comments, he would like to discuss and see if there's any modifications by having conversations with the townships, and then we'll come back and present maybe a modified list.
We'll be seeking a motion to approve to post the advertisement for public comment for 45 days.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Discussion?
Do we need to amend that agenda, or amend that motion at all to say that if no public comment comes in, that we would accept the list as is?
I didn't know if you wanted to do it as two, because right now it's just the posting, right?
Yes, correct. It's
Okay.
just the
And then just
posting
do
for
a
right now.
secondary with
Yeah.
a contingency.
Okay, okay.
So we're okay with the motion as it stands? Okay, we do have a motion to support. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Do we want to do the two-part today, the second part today, or did we want to wait till, I mean, it's a 45-day posting.
It's up to you.
I would
Whatever
make a
your
motion that
pleasure.
if we don't receive any comment during the 45-day period posting, that we accept these projects as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any discussion?
I like that it speeds up the efficiency of it, so that's nice. Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, letter of support for Ford River Township new fire truck.
Yes, Commissioner Williams brought this forward to administration. We put it on the agenda. We have a list of letter of supports. This one is Ford River Township is applying with the direct spending grants to purchase a new fire truck. It's to replace their 2001 pumper.
Seeking a motion.
I will make a motion to provide a letter of support for Ford River Township and their purchase of a new fire truck.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Jensen. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 6, ratification of letter of support for City of Escanaba underground electric circuit at airport.
The City of Escanaba is applying through the Michigan Eagle Resiliency Grant to replace and reroute an essential underground circuit over by the airport that I talked about in my admin report. So we're looking for approval of the ratification or acceptance.
So moved.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion?
Is with this underground digging, is there any way to run the internet from that little beaming over? Like, can we piggyback that or no?
So this is just step one.
Okay.
There's gonna be a lot more discussions.
Okay.
There's also easement questions. Also, de-energizing the circuit that is currently supplying the airport, because this is the circuit area that, the circuit that provides energy to the airport. So there's just a lot of, this is the first step.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
It's
think
not the
that
first time you're gonna see
conversation.
this on the agenda.
Okay,
It'll be
good.
either at
Yeah,
the airport
it'll-
advisory. I've already contacted our airport consultants, just seeking if they'll review the engineered plans and such for us. So we're getting there.
Yeah.
Be nice if we could piggyback that digging.
It'll come
Right.
up on
Yeah.
the easement, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That would
good.
be a good time to
Be a
do
question to
that.
ask
Okay, good.
during
Absolutely.
the process.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, letter of support for QPAD, MDOT Transit Service Initiatives.
This
Ashley?
letter of support is to analyze the current public transportation access across Menominee, Delta, and Schoolcraft County, and seek new strategies to enhance and expand the level of service provided and possible connections of all 3 counties under a shared public transit system and authority.
I would say this also fits right in with our master plan, so I think this is an excellent time to be doing this.
I would move that we do the letter of support for QPAD for the MDOT Transit Service Initiative.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Williams. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, letter of support for City of Escanaba Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP grant.
So for this grant, MDOT is doing some road reconstruction in 2027, 28, US 241 and M35. Alongside that, they're willing to partner up with the City of Escanaba to provide construction of non-motorized paths and sidewalks.
Wow.
Which is exceptional. I read through this and I cannot tell you how excited I was because it involves this railroad overpass over by KFC there.
Yeah.
It is so dangerous and I've seen people going to the college where they're like walking on that tiny little, it has to get done. So this is really super exciting. Yeah.
Seeking a motion?
So moved?
Support.
Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Jensen. I got it. Okay, sorry, Nancy.
No worries.
I was in a routine. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Last letter of support for Highline Broadband Access, number 9.
This is Under Michigan's Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, it's to expand their fiber network to approximately 877 additional homes and businesses in Delta County.
And again, I'll just say that Highline has changed my life, so I'm very much in support of this because I used to have just nothing, and now I
Yeah.
have fiber at my house out in Ford River in a very rural area, and it's exceptional. So I like to see this being expanded.
Is that a motion?
Sorry, it's well, yeah.
Support?
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, FOIA, procedures and guidelines. Ashley?
I think Commissioner Williams requested this. I believe it was just in the appeals fee section. It says chairperson as the head of the governing authority, and we should change that just like we did with the other portion of the appeals to the Board of Commissioners. Is that correct, Commissioner
Yes,
Williams?
that is, except for there's also, so that's section 9. So there's section 8 that we fixed at the last meeting. This would be section 9 that we need to fix in this meeting. But when I went through the FAQs, I also noticed that there needs to be, the changes need to be made, and I'll just give you the page numbers. So the change needs to be made on page 5, number 7 on page 5. It also needs to be made on page 6, under appeal of FOIA excess FOIA processing fee. And, yep, that's it. So there were the two changes also in they basically are the FAQ. It just refers back to section 8 and 9. So we need to update those as well. But that's it.
Is that your motion?
I'll entertain a motion for the adoption of changes as presented.
So moved.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Commissioner, for looking into all of those.
You're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 11, FOIA Appeal 2518 fees. At this time, I am going to recuse myself due to a conflict of interest, and I would like to nominate Commissioner Patrick Johnson to take over the meeting for this one agenda item.
I would support that.
Okay, can we get a roll call on that, please?
Sure. Johnson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
and Van Genhoven.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. So yeah, go ahead. Ms. Young?
In a different section. So we received an appeal on our FOIA request. Currently, the process at the county level is when we receive a request, we take the count of the emails that the search results come to, which was, I think it was 1,296. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. And then that we take 30 seconds per email, and that's how we come up with the time.
Can I make a suggestion? Because we don't, the way that the FOIA appeal works, it's the same appeal for fees as if it was the actual FOIA request. So based on MCL 15240A1A, right now, we start the 10-day clock. So basically, what we have to do at this meeting is just receive the appeal. We don't have to actually take any action on it. So it gives the commissioners then time to look into the fee structure, go through the fee structure, evaluate the fee structure that was presented to the requester, and then we would take action at a meeting within 10 days, which I'm assuming we're going to have a
So
meeting.
that will be the 18th, which we don't have a meeting
Correct.
until 5, so are we gonna do a,
But I think we're going to have this additional meeting, so I was going
Okay.
to suggest we put it on there.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
and then that way it gives us some time. The 10-day window just starts ticking.
So in the additional meeting, I think that was looking at next Tuesday, so that would be the 11th.
Well, we have to wait to do that when we get to that spot in the agenda.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, Ashley's right, it is the 18th would be our 10 days, 18th at 4 PM, so.
Right.
And we have to take 3 actions. We either waive the fee, we
Yep.
reduce the fee, we uphold the fee, or we issue a 10-day extension if for some reason we can show why we would need that 10-day extension, so.
So we taking motion to,
I
we
would make a motion that we just receive the FOIA appeal.
have a motion, do we have support?
I'll support.
We have motion support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And I would like to hand the gavel back to Commissioner Vangenhoven. Thank you. All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
aye. Yeah, that's so strange.
Okay, thank you for taking that over. We are moving on to number 12 at this time. The resignation of M. Lorla, request for lump sum payout. And I just did receive a communication from Ms. Peterson.
Okay.
In case anybody would like to look at it regarding the dispatch position, I'll pass it over. Ashley?
We're just requesting for us to accept the resignation, which allows us to do a payout lump sum, post and fill the position, and send a thank you letter for his services.
I would move that we accept the letter of resignation and issue a letter thanking them for their service.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 13, dispatch, request to fill dispatcher position. Ashley?
This was presented to both personnel and finance. What, Jen's coming up here.
Jen's coming up.
Oh, there we are.
Welcome.
Yep, so I gave some documents that you guys are able to take a look at over there. Like I had discussed at personnel the other day, and I probably did at finance. We've known for quite some time that this dispatcher was planning on leaving at the end of the school year when his youngest graduates, and he did give us a 3-month notice, which the copy of that was just given to you, so that we, closer?
Thank you.
Okay. Just so that we would have time to try to get somebody in here before, like Commissioner Johnson said, it's a 14-week training process. In addition to the 14 weeks of training, between the time that we post for the job, we do skills testing, interviews, psychiatric evaluation, and physical. So there's several weeks added on to the front of that. The calendars that I gave you, the items that are highlighted in yellow are the vacation time that's being utilized, and it's all in alignment with contract.
You need to see it.
The pink is what we're losing with this dispatcher that's leaving. And so that's additional overtime that we would have to pay. By trying to get this person in sooner, we could get them in July, beginning of July. So that's what we're hoping to do. The only other question is that if you do approve that, we have that posting on our Facebook page. It has been for quite some time. We normally pull it right after, and we didn't. We just finished interviews with this a few weeks ago. Do we need to repost since that's still up, or can we take, we've got the qualified applicants that we didn't hire. We had a good crop this time. We'd be able to move really, it's so nice, yeah. It would be nice if we could move forward more quickly, if possible.
That would be an answer, our administrator.
If it hasn't been taken down, everybody has had the opportunity to post and fill, apply.
Apply.
I wouldn't see an issue with it.
Yeah, as long as you have applicants and as long as it was posted and you're ready to pull it, you can pull it, as long as you know you're hiring someone.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And this was an item that was also discussed at finance and personnel and was approved at both. So seeking a motion to approve.
So support, or so moved.
I'll support.
Motion made by Commissioner Williams, support by
I
Commissioner
got a
Jensen.
comment.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just a comment, just for the general public. When we look back and did the math on what the overtime would be by not doing this position now, by being able to fill this position now in the training period actually saves us, I think we looked at 22,000, something like that
Yeah.
total. So it actually saves us money by being able to fill this other position now as well, so.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, moving on to number 14, appointment to opioid task force, one opening.
We're looking to fill the position of the nonprofit and community group. We have 2 applications that are in your packet. One is the CEO of the Great Lakes Recovery Centers, which is a location in Escanaba. The other is a volunteer mediator with UPCAP and is a Gladstone school bus driver. I did look into, because the individual, one question that was brought forward to me was the CEO of Great Lakes Recovery Centers lives in Ishpeming. And I did review the bylaws. It says that we will appoint local individuals, being that they have a business in Escanaba, a center in Escanaba. I believe that would qualify them as local. We currently have Catholic Social Services individual. They're, located outside of the county, but they have business in Delta County.
Would we be paying mileage at all for that from Ishpeming, or would we be?
I don't believe opioid task force is receiving any type.
Okay.
No, it's a
Okay.
completely voluntary position.
Okay.
I would make a motion to appoint Greg Toutant as the opioid task force representative from a nonprofit.
Support?
We have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for that additional information regarding that. I had questioned that, so thank you. Number 15, administrative assistant, Board of Commissioners, secretary job description.
So, course of business, this job description came up, and we noticed that it hadn't been updated since 2011, so we brought it forward after discussion with the employee to just have a review and update if necessary. Times have changed in the past 14 years. So, before you is the recommendation of a job description that's by the Personnel Committee.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Discussion?
The only thing that I would like to see on our job descriptions, I'd like to see, instead of something like computer skills, including, work, it says work processing. Is it supposed to say word processing? There's just a few little technology things in here that, because that's my career, they bother me a little bit. So I would like to see more clear definitions of what technology skills that we are requiring. I'm not asking for anything to be changed here. I just think this is something we can talk about more broadly, but adding, that we want people to be able to, clearly use word processors, using email effectively, knowing how to, work with data in a spreadsheet, stuff like that. So, but there was just the one question I had. I think that's supposed to say word processing, and it says work processing. Okay, all right. That was the only thing.
Any further discussion?
Commissioner Williams, did you want to make any amendments off the
No,
cuff? Or
no, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just saying, as I read this, I thought to myself, we really need to have a little bit more, I think, clear definitions of what we expect from a person to use technology. I just think it's inherent in any job you do anymore. You've got to have these technology skills, but I want to be more clear about it. But we can do that. We can do like a mass update of job descriptions in the future instead of onesie-twosie.
Sure.
Trying to be more consistent, I guess.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Number 16, Board of Commissioners per diem and travel reimbursement policy. Ashley?
So this policy has been going back and forth between finance and personnel, and you have decided to bring it forward.
Yes. Who would like to open discussion on this?
I can open discussion on it because it came up at finance. I think it was the first meeting, Ashley, wasn't it? You brought it forward and said, this was something that I think was sitting around since 2017 and has
Madam
just
Chair.
never, I'm sorry, pardon me?
I was going to ask Madam Chair if we need to actually have a motion on the floor for the discussion on it.
Kind of chair's pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it going the
Okay,
way it is.
okay.
Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this was brought forward to the Finance Committee, and, when we looked at it, clearly there's personnel stuff in here related, and I think Commissioner Johnson had suggested at a meeting that the personnel look at it. So going back and forth, I think we've done some really good work on, trying to, answer the questions and come to a consensus here. But I do want to say that this has been, in the works since 2017?
I don't believe it was ever actually brought forward.
Oh,
to the
so it was
commission.
somebody wrote it,
Started
drafted
writing
it,
it,
and then
and
nothing
then-
ever happened with it?
Right.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm excited that this is finally coming forward. I think that's a very positive thing, so. What I would point out is if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is the way I looked at it, because I thought it was the easiest way to look at it. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see that it says updated, finance updated on 129, personnel on 213, finance on 220. So you can kind of see the differences between the two groups coming forward. And I think that there were only a couple of things that were big changes from finance since the personnel group worked on it. And that was adding, at the very beginning, a whereas clause in which it said the Delta County Board of Commissioners are paid a salary in addition to their per diem and mileage, and that salary covers all other meeting expenses not included in this policy.
Correct.
And the reason that we added that was because as we were going back and forth in the discussion, we were like, well, what about this thing, and what about that thing? And it just kind of came to this point where we were just like, your salary should cover all that other stuff. And, your per diem is specifically required, they're meetings that are required by the board, they're necessary to do the business of our work, and those are what are covered by this per diem policy. Everything else, you're on your own. You pay for it on your own, and your salary can cover that. So that was kind of a big change. And then I think the only other thing was Commissioner Johnson had added, I think it was, you had added it, the payment shall be appropriate for county introduction meetings and with department heads. And I thought that was important. We agreed that that was a good one. The other thing I wanted to make sure to ask Commissioner Johnson is under F, where it says mileage payments may be appropriate for chairs for county board committees and subcommittees to receive mileage outside of meetings, or special meetings and committees of the whole when the chairs are required to interact with documents outside of meetings, such as signing documents. I was trying to capture what we had talked
No, that-
about, and I wasn't sure whether I captured it.
That sound like, I
So-
looked at that and I said, that sounds pretty darn close to.
Okay, that was what you
yeah.
meant?
And,
Okay.
can we explain the purpose of that? Just because, if you are in Escanaba and you are the chair of we'll say the UP State Fair Board, and you need to sign documents, to have to go in and sign a document, it's not necessarily a meeting, but you do have to spend mileage to go to it. You are spending your car or whatever. And I don't want to disincentivize somebody from like Garden Township from being the chair of that meeting. So that this is a tool that allows everybody to kind of be on the same playing field.
Right, so if you're from the garden and you have to drive, 45 minutes to come and sign a
Right.
document, at least you'll be reimbursed for that mileage,
Mileage.
so, okay. So I think those were some of the more significant changes between the Personnel Committee and the Finance Committee. And I think we captured those. There was one other one I just noticed. It's item M. M as in man. And it was basically, in the event that a reimbursement payment is questioned by administration, the Board of Commissioners chairperson will make a determination as to whether the reimbursement is allowed. And then we added, in the event the chair's reimbursement is questioned by administration, the vice chair will make a determination. So basically, if it's the chair and administration is questioning their submission of mileage, that the vice chair can then step in and make that decision. And then it's up to the full board. At the end, the full board has final determination of commissioner expenses.
The whole part with that is it actually made it where the chair wasn't isolated by themselves. So there's a procedure for everybody else, and now there's one for the chair. And in both processes, if the individual reviewing it thinks it shouldn't be, there is an appeal for those. So in the case of the chair, it goes to the vice chair, but if they still feel that's not accurate, then it would come to
the
the
full
entire
board.
board
The
for
full board.
determination.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed is if we're looking at item K, it says commissioners who wish to serve on state level committees or boards may do so without reimbursement or pay, or any per diem by the county of Delta. Any compensation afforded to the commissioner for any appointment shall be disclosed to the full board of commissioners. The only thing I have an issue with that on is like our MAC board. I was talking to Commissioner Van Genhoven about it, and she was saying on her board, she has like one other UP representative.
That's correct.
And so by removing a per diem for that, I feel like we disincentivize anybody from Delta County to having a full voice of Delta County. And so I would encourage that we put that as a per diem because I want as much Delta County there as possible. And if I could encourage everybody in the UP, I want as much UP as possible represented downstate.
And I was going to say with that, I agree. And yes, there's parts where, yes, you're representing the UP, but your basis for that is where you live. So your point of view from that in your influence, and that's one where people will say all the time, they don't feel they have representation in Lansing, but those boards are what leads into that other representation. Those are the ones where those other groups and legislatures go to, they get the pulse of where those items are. I mean, I agree. I think it's really important to have those individuals there. I don't want to see them discouraged from doing it either. And you are taking on a significant extra load in there.
I would add to that, though, that as commissioners, we are, there's requirements for us to do our job, and then there's, things that we want to take on and do in addition to that. And we can personally decide that. Our salary is for, in my opinion, our salary is for that sort of thing, because the state level committees are not a requirement for our job. And if you're representing the UP and you're representing, something that, I don't know, Schoolcraft County wants or Marquette County wants, I don't want Delta County taxpayers to be footing the bill for you to be covering that material. Now, with that said, I do want UP representation, absolutely, and I would encourage all of the commissioners to try to seek MAC boards and any other state or state boards or committees. But we get a salary on top of our per diem, and in my opinion, our per diem should only be covering what we are required. Now, if we required our commissioners to serve on MAC boards, that would be a whole nother thing. I would say, great, our rules of procedure should say we assign, we try to get on a MAC board, and then that MAC board is a requirement of our position. But because it's not a requirement, I don't think the taxpayers should be paying the bill for state level committees and boards unless it's a requirement.
And just for clarification purposes, MAC committees meet via Zoom. So it is not a mileage compensation. It is simply meeting compensation, so the time. But this was one where Commissioner Johnson and I in personnel did differ, because I felt like I sit on 3 MAC committees. I do so willingly. I was not under an assumption that I would be paid for them. However, that is me. And I don't know what it's going to mean for future commissioners. And in the past, I think past precedence does pay, correct? Yes. And I know, so I'm fine with either way on this. I'll just see how it goes. But I just wanted that for clarification purposes, that the committees do meet and vote via Zoom.
So I'd like to bring up the point that we have 2 statutory meetings as county commissioners. So technically, I have to show up twice, and I get paid the same as the rest of you guys. I probably won't get reelected if I do that. But the same with all of our elected officials. They really, like, Ms. Pezroxy, she shows up like once, and she's got it.
Once a year.
Yeah, once a year, and she's got her salary. So if we're going,
wish.
if we're going strictly based off of what we're required to do, then we don't get the production out of us at all. And we could technically say, well, you're being paid $8,000 a year. That should cover all your meetings. What are we doing per diem for, period?
Well, because that's a very good point, and I think that's something that's worth clarifying. The state of Michigan allows us to pay commissioners in certain ways. So we could pay commissioners a salary only. And that's absolutely, there's many counties that do that. And that salary, you just get a salary and you're expected to attend these meetings and do your job for this salary. But what we opted as a county, and the other way that you can pay county commissioners is by just per diem. So you're only getting paid by the production of meetings that you're going to and so forth. Or you can pay based on a mix. And so Delta County chose to pay on a mix, where we pay a base salary and then we pay per diem for a certain number of meetings that you're attending. So we chose as a county to pay our commissioners this way.
But if you also look at the pay scale of other counties, so like we're looking at.
God, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
hey, you know what?
Yeah, we're
We
not
didn't get
even
to
in the
choose
ballpark.
this, right?
Right.
The
Yeah.
previous one did, and
Well-
it's stuck for 4
well,
years
true.
now.
Well, no, we're stuck for 1 year.
I
aren't
thought
we?
it was
Yeah.
I thought it was 4 years.
Thought it was every year we have a collective bargaining agreement and we reassess.
No, I think it's 4 years. It's
For
set for 4 years.
commissioners?
For
Yeah.
commissioners' pay.
You can't.
It's set for 4 years.
Oh,
It's your
okay.
term.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
It used to be every other because it was a 2-year term.
Right.
Okay.
We're no longer 2-year term, or
Ah,
you're no
I
longer
see.
2-year
And there's
term.
no step or anything.
Sure,
So
sure.
we're stuck, yeah.
But so, and really what we're arguing about is like $100.
And I'm not talking about the money. For me, it's more about the principle.
Sure.
So this is, you're choosing to serve on a state-level committee. Some people may use that state-level committee as a stepping stone for something else. Some may want to do it just because they want to make sure they're representing Delta County and the UP in a broader sense. I mean, there's a million different ways that people could sort of interpret their activity on that state level. But it really is, it's your choice. And I personally think that if it's something that you're going to choose to do, then you cover it under your salary. And per diem is, we're required to do these things, we have to attend these meetings, we have to, and those are what we cover under. It's just, for me, it's more black and white.
Sure.
I guess one of the things, and there isn't anybody that sits up here that if you wanted to say that we lump items under our salary, we do it every day.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of, okay, yep, it's only, I met with this person over here for an hour. I did this Zoom meeting with this agency. There isn't a member up here that doesn't spend numerous hours daily just within those communications. And those fall under that salary part. But I think to put this, and I understand your point. I mean, that is something you're taking on in addition. But I think it still goes back, it's still our point of view that we're able to do. And yes, you can apply, doesn't mean you're gonna get it. So again, it's one of those that, even if it was a requirement, the best you could do is say, yep, hey, I put my name in, I didn't get anything. Okay. I'm not sitting on any MAC boards. But at the end of the day, we're already looking at how much of your time, and Commissioner Johnson's point of view, and if you looked at the other counties, I mean, that's, and I remember our comment at the MAC conference when we found out from one of them, that I think this is one that, for the few that they actually do, or on average now, I mean, that's an exception with the amount. Normally, you're lucky enough to be on one board. So I guess if I look at it over one, that would be one thing, but it's still the representation that we're getting and your point of view and the reference that you have is your home.
But that's not questioned at all. That's never
I-
been a question.
And I
Yeah.
guess that's the other part where, I don't want to see people not do it.
And do you think people would not do it because they're not going to get paid to do it?
Unless
Because
they-
if they're not going to get paid to do it and they don't want to do it, I don't want them on the board.
Well,
You know, it's
well,
like-
and no, and I agree. And you're still gonna have some that are gonna do it, like you said. Maybe it's for other things, maybe because they want the information, or that information to come back down in the process. I mean, they're each gonna have their own reasons for wanting to do it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Well, this was a great discussion.
One,
Yeah,
Go
one
ahead,
thing,
Mr.
Commissioner Vangenhoven, you, when we were discussing and kind of narrowing down the scope of things we could attend, I brought up like governor's luncheons, things like that, where we've been paid in the past. And you made a great point, I thought, when you said, if there's a call to order and there's a call to close, that was a pretty good definition of whether we
meeting.
should pay for a meeting or not. With the MAC meetings, there is a call to order
That
and
is
there's a call to
correct.
close.
That is
So
correct.
I thought that, to me, that fit into my definition of, is this a meeting that a county commissioner should be paid for? Now, should you be able to be paid for the fare? No, I agree that was probably a little excessive. Even though different committees, you needed to go there, you were supposed to be present, you were compelled to go. But no, I think that's a fair point, that, no, you probably should, you're getting dinner, you're meeting with the governor, that's great. But with a call to order and a call to close, I think that sets up a really nice definition for what a meeting actually
So
is.
what does that expand to then?
So we've also, I thought we've included, like, because I also said, well, do we really need to go to township boards? And the argument that was given to me is, yes, there's a call to open, there's a call to close. It is something that you are representing, and I go, well, no, you're just really running for reelection by going to those boards. However,
God, I would hope not.
well,
Yeah.
I would hope not either, but
Right.
if you don't go to those, are you going to be likely to be voted as the guy who is showing up to all those boards?
Yeah, I think I think there's sort of a misinterpretation of what those boards mean. We are the liaison to the town, at least for me, my townships. I am that conduit, that liaison, I am taking things to those meetings. I present at every meeting and say, here's what is going on at the county, let's make sure to connect what's going on in the township to what's going on in the county. That should be a requirement of my job. But, attending, for instance, township association meetings, I wouldn't say that that's a part of my job every day. It's not. But I may need to attend that if there was something on the agenda that would call for my action, something where I need to present or I need to get information to bring back here. That would be what I would consider to be a requirement, but not always.
And so I would argue that the township board would be something that I would want you paid for, because that is that sounding board, and the township meetings are something that I want you paid for. I was just
Yeah.
playing devil's
No,
advocate that.
that's fine. I
Well,
just was trying to understand.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Williams, if I can say something, I have only attended one of each of the MEC committee meetings so far. And I specifically chose the boards in the committee, or excuse me, not the boards, the committees that I felt could help me in my job as a commissioner, bring information that MAC is promoting back to Delta County for our use. For example, I sat on the Environmental Agriculture and Tourism Committee for the first time, and we talked about materials management. Well, I sit on the Central Upper Peninsula Materials Management Planning Committee, so I was able to take information that I received from that MAC meeting and present it to Ryan Carrig, at QPAD, and we were going to have a meeting, but it was canceled due to lack of quorum. But it did help me pursue my job, my job and my designated appointment to that committee. Now, do I do MAC committees for the $20 per meeting? No. I do it to be able to further my education and knowledge to bring the duties back to Delta, or, the information back to Delta County. I think this is the only real stickler we had in this entire policy. And I think that we've had great discussion on this, but I would like to see us come to a compromise
Can
somehow.
I ask a question about the
course.
MAC committees?
Of
So I
course.
think there's, what, 5 MAC committees, is that correct?
I believe.
Okay, what about the MAC, the representation to MAC for the is there some sort of committee in which there's a representative of the UP?
Yes,
the
ma'am.
district,
That,
yes.
And what is that?
that would be our Region 1, and currently that is John Melner.
Okay.
And that's why he's in NACO, at NACO right now.
Okay.
And then there's another commissioner from, I believe, Gogebic, that is currently on that as our Region 1. So Region 1 is encompasses the entire Upper Peninsula, and it's represented by 2 commissioners. And John sits on that board now.
Okay. So is that included in here then? So that someone who's representing the entire UP, that the Delta County residents are paying for that person's per diem
Okay.
to represent the entire UP?
When Commissioner Malner goes down to MAC in Lansing as a board member, he is compensated through MAC minus his meeting time. So
But we would be paying him for that meeting time.
that is correct currently. Correct, Ashley?
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So we're talking anywhere from $20 to $50.
yeah.
Yeah, per meeting.
But it's
So for
the
me-
Delta County taxpayers
Absolutely.
paying for that
Absolutely.
So we're not saying like it's a percentage and the other counties are going to pitch in.
No, ma'am.
We're saying Delta County taxpayers are going to foot the bill
Mm-hmm.
for UP representation. So that's across the UP, all the
Mm-hmm.
counties, and the Delta County taxpayers are going to pay that bill.
Yes,
Or-
and just for clarification purposes, from what I understand, is that what we just passed, or what we just suggested that we were going to pass and all agreed upon, was that, let's say a commissioner sits on the UP State Fair Authority, right? They choose to be the chair of that board, right? They're not required to. They can just sit there like the rest, but because they're choosing to do that, now we're saying that we're going to reimburse their mileage if they have to come into town to sign a check. So we're okay with that, but they're choosing to do that. They don't have to be the chair of that board.
Okay.
So that's a Delta County taxpayer expense as well. And if you're talking about somebody potentially from Garden coming in to do that, that
That's
mileage,
Delta County,
yeah,
yeah.
that mileage can rack up a lot quicker than the $20 meeting time for, say, a MAC board. So I guess I see it either way. Like I said, me personally, I do not do this for the $20. I do it for the knowledge and the
Yeah,
experience.
and
Yeah.
I'm not,
I know, I'm aware.
I'm not
yeah.
suggesting that. I
Right.
want us to pass a policy that can sort of live in perpetuity with
I
some
agree.
sort of sense of like, what are the taxpayers paying for? And I want to make sure that we're clear about what the taxpayers are paying for.
I agree.
And I feel like it's not as clear if we don't specifically state, like if we're going to put in here the MAC boards, like these state boards or whatever, are there any other state level committees besides the MAC ones?
Not that I'm aware
Nancy, are
of.
you aware of any?
For the commissioners, no.
So maybe it should just say, MAC committees so that it's more clear. But, making sure that we know that that includes the UP representation, that Region 1 board, that it includes that as well, because otherwise it's just ambiguous, right? And it's not clear. So I want to be clear on what people are paying for. And if we're okay with it, that's fine, we're okay with it, but let's be clear about what it is. So I would suggest, if we want to include, that this would say commissioners who wish to serve on MAC committees or MAC regional boards may do so, and then we can change it, but we would actually change the language.
So it'd be like MAC committee and MAC board. I think that's
Yeah.
how they differentiate
Yep.
between the two.
The
That's
two.
correct.
And then, because you had a conversation about the Township Association, in this policy it says Michigan Township Association. I think it should say Delta County Township Association.
Thank you very
Okay.
I
much.
just noticed
Yep.
it.
Yes,
Thank
How
thank
many
you.
times have we looked at this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, very true.
Okay, so lots of good discussion. Thank you, everybody, for your input on that. Seeking a motion.
So I would make a motion that we accept the of per diem and mileage for Delta County Board of Commissioners with the following changes. Under item E, that it says Delta County Township Association, not Michigan Township Association. And so it would not be MTA. So we would make that change. And under item K, that commissioners who wish to serve on commissioners who wish to serve on MAC committees or boards may do so with reimbursement or any per diem by well, let's just strike that sentence. So it would say commissioners who wish to serve on MAC committees or boards may be afforded or will be afforded reimbursement. So that would just be a simple change there. So we wouldn't say without reimbursement or any per diem by the County of Delta.
So would we say with reimbursement and per diem?
I
Or
just think
with
that it,
reimbursement?
I think that it needs to be consistent with all the others, which basically say that, they say, that meetings are reimbursable. So how do we want to say this? Let me see. Let me hold on a
Ashley?
Would
second.
it be, may be eligible for expense reimbursement and per diem payments?
And do we want to use the word may? Are we going to be black and white here, or are we going to be wishy-washy?
Shall?
Well,
Shall.
at the bottom, we say Board of Commissioners shall have the final determination, so, I mean, technically,
But we say in the other ones that
It,
they are paid out.
well, and that's like, and we've said that before, like whether it's signing a check, I'm not gonna write down that it was a meeting or
Right.
mileage for the 3 miles round trip, I just do it.
Right.
So just because you would have the ability, doesn't mean you have to do it either.
Oh, yeah, well,
So-
you have to submit it in order for this policy to even kick
Right.
in, so. Okay,
Okay, so let's try this again
Yep.
for the motion.
so here we go. Well, you got my first part of the
Yep.
motion. Here's the second part. Commissioners who wish to serve on MAC committees or boards. I'm just looking for it right here, hold on. May receive per diem, period. Because there's no travel expenses, right?
Well, for boards there are, but I believe
I
that's
thought you
covered
just
for
said
MAC.
that that was covered by
I
MAC
believe that was
covers
covered by
it.
MAC,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so there's
Which-
no travel.
I mean, we pay our MAC dues, so technically, like, we're paying for it whether we're MAC members or not.
Okay.
Or whether we're going to those board meetings or not, we're
You're
paying for
correct.
somebody to
But it
do
would
it.
say per
You're-
diem,
you're
not
correct.
travel.
You're
Okay.
correct,
And then
Commissioner
just strike the rest of it.
Okay.
This rest of that first sentence. Any compensation afforded to the commissioner for any appointment shall be disclosed to the full board. I think that's important to leave there.
Mm-hmm. I believe
I do
as
think we
well.
need to be clear about what compensation we are receiving.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be my motion.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion?
Just thank Commissioner Williams for tackling this in the beginning.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the entire board, because going back and forth on this was knowledgeable for all of us.
Well, and I was gonna
So,
say, it was a whole lot easier to do here than the way we were trying to do it in the committee portions.
We gave it our best shot.
And we did.
And I
Yeah.
think we needed to build that, like,
Yeah.
back and forth a little bit, and then
Yeah.
finally bring it
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Commission.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 17, Board of Commissioners Committee of the Whole request.
This is a this is a request received by Commissioner Vangenhoven to schedule a committee of the whole meeting on March 10th to discuss the controller HR position, job description, and salary.
Yep, so this was a discussion that I had with Commissioner Williams as well regarding the job descriptions and salaries of this new position that we are trying to form to get some help in the administration office. And I would like to discuss this in front of the entire board as a committee of the whole work session.
Yeah, because we've been going back and forth again, and I think it's just important if we all get together, we can hash this out and be more efficient.
And I agree on the one part, but if we do it as a committee of a whole, we can't make a decision. If we do
Correct.
it as a joint board, we can actually make any decisions versus having to have another meeting, whether that's in personnel and finance to each go back and then do it again, or we have a additional meeting to approve it. We could, if it's a joint meeting, we can do that right then and there.
I would prefer a committee of the whole myself.
And why is that?
We can still make our recommendation to the board. And that decision doesn't have to be made until the board meeting.
Yeah.
Well, and plus, we're scheduling another meeting later on, so even if,
We can always do it then.
can always do it.
The reason I would want a committee of the whole is just to be, not being pressured to have to make a decision, but being able to just have the conversations and, being able to go back and forth with, without having to think, all right, we got to come to a consensus and meet
Yeah,
with
I
a
mean-
motion at the end.
Yeah.
I just would rather have the discussion.
Okay.
Administrator, did you have
I
something
have a
you'd like to say?
question. So are we, stopping the current process that we have with bringing forward new positions by going through personnel, finance? I'm just looking at, we would have a tentative schedule maybe, this Thursday for finance, I believe.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
We haven't scheduled, but that's like our,
Yeah,
that's our.
that's-
Oh, you
Yeah.
mean the sort of standard, okay,
Sort of
gotcha.
standard that's happening. We
Yeah.
haven't actually officially scheduled it yet. But we will be presenting there. If a determination is not made, having it on March 10th, there wouldn't be that process.
I'm not sure I fully understand that.
So right now, our current process, when departments are asking for positions, we bring it to personnel, personnel first, and then we bring it to finance.
Which you have done,
Correct, but finance has not made any motion. We deferred it until our next
Correct.
meeting.
Yep.
So if, I'm asking, because if the recommendation, we're assuming that finance will make a motion on the 7th, is it? Then it would be not an issue. But if there was no motion, I wouldn't have a recommendation from finance on March 10th. So I'm just wondering, like.
yeah,
maybe-
and we wouldn't, if we have the committee of the whole on March 10th, we wouldn't be making any decisions on March 10th, so we wouldn't need that recommendation or that recommendation from finance, right? Because we'd be able to have the meeting as a whole.
That's what I'm asking.
We
Are we
would-
gonna go out of the process that we normally take?
You guys would be jumping finance, and would the finance committee be okay jumping finance and?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I think that was the whole reason why I wanted to have a committee of the whole, is I wanted personnel and finance to get together on this one and have the conversation together instead of going back and forth. Yeah, I wanted to be more efficient, and I felt like this was being more efficient.
Okay. I was just asking, I didn't know that we were jumping back and forth. I know it was just presented to personnel and we had
Just once,
deferred
yeah.
it.
Yep.
And then it's only came up to finance first.
Yeah, but I think what the questions that I asked, the stuff that I asked for, would end up having to go back to personnel in the first place. It'll have to go back to personnel.
Okay.
So, because what I'm asking for is, how your position was formulated in the first place, and then if you're gonna take something out of your position and put it into another position, what does that do to your position? So I think my questions that are finance related are also personnel related. So I would rather have the conversation with all four of us together, and the chair
And the
of the
chair,
commission,
And
having
you
the
as well.
conversation wholly.
But I don't believe I would be pulling anything out of my job description.
Well, that's something we can discuss at the committee of the whole.
That's why a committee of the whole, I
Yeah.
think, would be really important.
I would like to seek a motion for an approval of a committee of the whole.
At what time on March 10th?
Well, the email said the week of March 10th, not on March 10th. So I was, hoping that Tracy would have sent something out, but it hasn't happened yet. So if we all want to pull out our calendars.
Yeah, the 12th works best for me, but I can make just about any day work. The 12th or the 13th works really well. But any day, I can make any day work.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, thank you. Monday, 9 to 11, Friday, 9 to 11, I have free. Thursday, say 10:30 and on, I have.
Okay.
Thursday works really well, too.
Thursday, I have an upcap at 11. Otherwise, I should be free.
Thursday's good for me.
Okay.
So if it was in,
10:30, is that okay?
so
I have upcap at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Pat.
No, that's
can
okay.
it be afternoon?
Sure.
Or evening?
Yeah, what if we did, well, I have Parks Commission in the
Oh, you have
evening.
Parks in the
What if
evening.
it was like 3, or anywhere between 1 and, say, 4?
1 o'clock's probably best.
1 o'clock? Works for
Is
me.
do we know if the room's available?
As of March 3rd, it was.
Okay.
So March 13th at 1 o'clock?
Yep.
Actually, you know what? I apologize. I'm looking at my calendar incorrectly. March 13th, I'm available all day. The UPCAP meeting is on the 14th. My apologies.
So would 10 in the morning be better for you?
I have a doctor's appointment at 9:30.
Are doctors on time?
That's okay. Commissioner Johnson,
it
it's
should-
unavailable from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. on the
Okay.
13th.
So do we want to stick with 1
Yeah.
PM?
Yeah, let's, yeah.
Okay. So we're
That made that easy.
we're going to still seeking a motion for committee of the whole meeting?
I'll make the motion that we have a committee of the whole meeting and schedule that for 13 March 2025 at 1 PM here in the boardroom.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 19, hiring committee for Veterans Affairs Director.
Oh, wait a
Oh,
minute. Did
no,
we
no.
rescind
18.
appointments?
I apologize. I skipped number 18. Number 18, rescind appointments to the Veterans Affairs Committee. I hit my check mark before I even did it. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I wrote 17 and then I wrote 18, or 19, so I did the same thing.
Okay, my apologies. Ashley, did you want to start this conversation?
Yeah, so, as we have received a complaint regarding the process that we did with the Veterans Affairs Committee appointments. So during my investigation, I guess you could say, there are requirements according to Public Act 192 of 1953. The two requirements that was the notifications. So it is required that we have a notice in the daily press and then also bring notice to all the veteran service organizations in Delta County. So we did have an article in the daily press, but there was no official notice posted. The second is notifying the veteran service organizations. Our VSO did attend the Delta County Veterans Council. And that's made up of all the veteran service organizations here. However, it was just verbal, please, let your service organization membership know that we're looking for applicants. And then the other part of the complaint was the VSO's role in developing all this department with the appointees and all of that. I believe that we were well known, or we understood here at the commission and administration that we asked our VSO to do that. All the documents like recording or looking at previous committee minutes and all of that. But I guess what is your pleasure because of the posting that's required under the Public Act and then the veteran service notification.
I have a question. If we were to act on this and rescind, we would still accept those applicants that did submit their applications,
Oh, completely.
correct?
We would
Okay.
keep them on, yes. on
Okay, so
file.
then it would just allow others to submit and then giving them
Potentially.
notification of that, yeah.
Yep. So there's, with doing this part, just so we know, so after 1 January, when it became effective, that rescinded the Soldier Sailor Airman
Yep.
Relief Act folks.
Right.
So right now, if there's one of those individuals that would have an emergency that group would normally service, there is not the means to be able to take care of those individuals.
And why is that not?
Because the previous group, the Soldier Sailor
been
Airman
dissolved.
Relief Act.
No, I understand that.
Was dissolved when the County Board of Veteran Affairs was approved.
Okay,
So those individuals that would have done that were done as of January. So they're not carrying over to now, so the last 2 months, and then if we go forward again another month, there is nobody, if one of those has an emergency, there is no way to facilitate taking care of them currently.
even with the staff,
What staff?
the VSO?
That is something that was done specifically through that committee for review, for oversight, and for the transparency of how that fund's being spent. There, being it's a Department of Veteran Affairs now, without the committee having met, there's no bylaws, there's no guidance for, in this case, for our VSO to even if it was X amount that he could authorize for something without having to convene the committee. There's nothing there yet. So that's where they run into an issue if we do the rescinding and post for another 30 days. If something comes up, there is no means to be able to facilitate taking care of them.
And what about reenacting the Soldiers and Sailors Committee?
We can't, because when the millage passed, that actually created the County Department of Veteran Affairs. And that actually absorbs that very department.
So what happened before we made the appointments?
Yeah.
Because we just made the appointments. So are you telling me that for that amount of time, there
Yes.
was no one?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like to hear what our administrator would like to recommend for this.
So my recommendation, because of the fact, thank you, Commissioner Johnson, I did not realize, I mean, I remember now that you bring it up, is the fact that our soldiers and sailors is no longer a group because of the Public Act. I don't foresee letting our veterans go on any, without having the relief. So, I would believe that we recognize it and, that about the postings, but are you willing to rescind everything and go another 30 days for our veterans? I guess would be my question.
But by not posting in the appropriate manners, did we bias the application process?
I guess on one part, I can look at a couple parts of that, and that's very valid.
Just a second.
In the first one, where it was obviously in the paper, that was actually well stated. It was actually front page, if I remember correctly.
It's
and-
not the
well, I
correct
know,
way.
Notification.
It's
I know.
not a
And I
notification.
understand that part.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
The
just
one
do
part,
articles.
well, and that was the other part I was gonna get to. I do not, looking back, I cannot see another committee, whether it's advisory, board, et cetera, that had nearly the publicity as this one did. And I mean, from July forward, I'm talking even, not just radio, print, and TV as well.
I understand
So,
what
mean,
you're
it
saying,
had-
Matt, but
had
it's.
broad spectrum. It's-
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just, we're not arguing that people didn't know about it. People did know about it. But there's a process to follow so that we make sure that we are consistent, unbiased, giving everyone equal opportunity, that we're engaging the appropriate organizations by law. And so by not having followed that process, we have violated law at this point. And I don't think that any of us are going to say, oh, well, that's just fine,
No.
who cares? I mean, clearly we did. It's just, I think at this point, it's like, how do we move forward with this idea that people are not going to get serviced if we take 30 days to potentially, give people an opportunity.
Chair, so prior to here, my recommendation was to rescind.
Yep.
Prior to hearing
Yes.
the Public Act. I mean, we
Yep.
spoke about it.
Yep.
I think, several of you on different occasions. Again, it's just relying on going another 30 days for the veterans.
So when,
May I please ask Dave Xavier to approach the podium?
That's what I was just.
Okay. Thank you. What I would like to know from you, sir, is in the event that we do rescind and we have to repost and wait the 30 days, what actions can you take to ensure that our veterans will be serviced?
Well, the veterans will still be serviced as far as the VSO goes, but as far as any emergency relief, there's nothing I can do. It has to be done by the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Committee. If you want to talk about upholding the law, that's the law.
When was the last time that you provided emergency relief?
Last week.
Okay, so this is not something that is,
Actually, it's in accounts payable right now,
okay. And when was the time before that?
January.
Okay.
Thank you for that information.
Is there a way we can kind of write an IOU to ourselves and like have it go through
Go through us.
us?
And actually, that kind of led me to another thought here. If we're going to go through and do
Ashley, no.
rescinding process, rescinding,
You got it. Yeah, Ascension, yeah.
that, and because Dave has actually been the one to review those, and we actually have the position, if we're going to rescind that and do like you suggest, if there's one of those, is it one of those?
I don't
that
even
we
know if
could
it's possible,
authorize?
but-
I don't either, but per part of that discussion, then we should look at making Dave the interim director through that time, because he's going to be the one to, as we previously did, had him go through the applications and do the interviews, which we would still be doing over the next 30 days, but this would be the director going through those now. If we were to do the authorization up to X amount, I don't know if that's something we could do, so in the event something came in, we could pre-authorize up to X
Yeah,
amount for release? I don't know if that's possible or not.
I think what we're saying is just if we have an emergency that comes up, that Dave could come here and say, here is this situation, and then we would authorize payment. Rather than this committee authorizing payment, we would authorize that
But
payment
then
in the interim.
Is it legal to get
That's what I'm
reimbursed by it?
asking, yeah.
Is
Well, and I guess that's the other one with where that committee is there a level of privacy that wouldn't be afforded to, like if the
Oh, well,
individual
clearly they would
approached?
still follow any sort of,
Right,
you know,
I mean, that would be the other
personal
thing.
information laws and, yeah.
Right.
This is hard.
So
How do-
I
how do we
might
want to
make the
proceed?
suggestion, we change our committee of the whole to a decision maker, because we're gonna need more information, we'll probably have to make a decision on it.
We're planning an additional meeting for next week for the airport anyways. So it looks like we're gonna have a double duty meeting week.
We can't just do it all the same day?
No,
No,
it's too much.
it's too much.
I don't wanna put you on the spot.
You
but I
guys
do-
like hanging out with me that much?
Go
huh?
ahead, Ashley.
I have a question. So if they were to appoint you, and this would be in the public document, I just don't have time. If they were to appoint you as the director, would you be able to make the emergency relief fund determinations without a
I
council?
would. I'd have to start working on rewriting the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund to the Veterans Trust Fund and to put those into effect, basically.
Wouldn't that be
There's
some-
two different things, right? There's the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund that has now been abolished. Now
Right.
you have the Veterans Relief Fund because of the Department of Veterans Affairs. That policy hasn't been written yet. So I was in the process of working on that, but stopped because of the whole director, non-director situation until such time as I was a director or there was a director that they could take over and rewrite that policy. I would be willing to rewrite that policy in the interim while we're doing this and to be able to then provide relief. There's many other counties out there that will give like the director of the office like up to $1,000 to be able to decide on their own.
So you just had an emergency last week? What board dispersed that? Because we,
And in January, you said you
Yeah,
had an
the
emergency?
sailors and soldiers just-
It was the January, both of them were decided like in January because this board hadn't been established yet, so we had no other option.
Oh, right, because we hadn't made
So the
the,
Soldiers and Sailors Relief Board was still operating because this board hadn't been.
they were operating last week?
No, he said
no, 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 in January.
Oh, I thought you just
The
said
one,
there was one last week.
the one that's for last week is on accounts payable for when.
Right, but it
Okay.
hasn't, it
Yeah.
hasn't been dispersed.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was the auto place, it was like, they were like 2 months waiting to get an appointment. That was why it took so long to get the accounts payable. We were just waiting for
Okay.
them to be able to get into the auto parts, service, I should say.
Okay.
But yes, I could go in and I could rewrite that and make it so that, as a director, however, yeah, without the board to approve it, that would be the only concerning part, is that there isn't a committee to approve the new policy.
Well, it would just be an interim. I
Well,
mean,
and
it's
we would-
clearly for an emergency.
We would want 2 signatures on that anyways, so could we?
Could be the board chair.
We could, well, it could be board chair, or could we nominate our, one of our own veterans from our own board? Looking at Matt.
Yeah,
And he's
I
also
mean,
the chair
I'd
of
be
finance.
comfortable, but that would.
He's also
yeah.
the chair of finance.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Whatever your pleasure.
That would, I mean, I'm a big
Would
fan
you
of
be
two
able-
And it would
signatures.
You'd be
have,
okay
well,
with
and
that?
then it's the oversight on it
Yep.
too. It's protected that
Yep,
way.
and protects Dave too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, if there is one of those emergencies that arise, we're able to take care of those individuals versus, and it could be 30 days and then it's done. But in the interim of that, then they would at least be covered.
Yep,
I did find it in the act. It says, when we enact PA 192, the soldiers and sailors are hereby transferred to the County Department of Veterans Affairs created under the provisions of this act.
Okay.
I didn't know if it said the committee, so I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
So just for verification purposes, we would be looking for a motion to make Dave Xavier our interim director until such date that the
Positions filled.
the
Or-
position is filled and that the 30 days have lapsed for reappointment for, because aren't we doing this because we want to be able to follow the process correctly?
Right, but the director hiring has nothing to do with the appointees of the committee.
It's two different things.
yeah, we want to rescind.
Yeah.
So first, we're going to make
Yeah,
a motion.
we would
to
have to
Okay, so-
rescind
Yeah.
and then.
Okay, apologies. Thank you for that clarification. Okay,
Before the rescind happens, can I make a statement?
for sure.
Just something that I want everybody to know, that I want to ensure that the public and you as well, when we talk about bias, that there was no such bias as far as how we process the applications or how we receive the applications. I want to remind the commissioners that this took 7 months of getting applications. This wasn't something that happened in 2 months or 2 weeks or whatever. And any notion that there was any bias or any people that were picked over one or another for favoritism, trust me, I would have had it done in 7 days versus 7 months. Took a lot longer than what it should have because of the fact that we took such an offhand approach. And as the Commissioner Jensen was saying, we did have it out there in all kinds of places. I understand what we're talking about with the Public Act, absolutely 100%. But I want to make sure that people know that there wasn't anything going on other than what actually happened. As a matter of fact, to put minds at ease, if there's any minds out there that think that any of these people are my friends or my buddies or anything like that, I want that to be known. That one person I didn't even know, never met him before in my life. First time I talked to him was during the interview that I had with him. 3 people, only through veteran services, that I've met occasionally because of help. The only person I knew was Steve Kacharny, because he's very well known in the area, being a veterans person, plus he's with the Delta County Veterans Council. So before any rescinding happened, I don't want there to be any false thoughts or biases or negative opinions about the process, about the commissioners that were involved. Some of them were before you were commissioners, in some cases. That nothing like that happened, no behind closed doors, nothing like that. It was all on the up and up.
Yes.
Yes, did we not send out that letter? Didn't know what requirement. That's pretty much how we got to the point where we're at today.
Thank you for your statement, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
So
Okay,
motion.
Oh, I apologize. Go
no,
ahead.
Motion to rescind the appointments to the Veterans Affairs Committee?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And then I would make a motion that we appoint Dave Xavier as the interim director of the Department of County of Veteran Affairs.
Can I ask for a slight modification? That it is for the purposes of a 30-day notice for Veterans Affairs Committee members, because that's what it's for, right? We're doing this so that we have someone who can sign or who can service emergency needs during this 30-day window.
He'd also have to create the actual policy. That's not written yet. So that's something that as the interim director, he would do.
Okay, but that would be over the 30-day period.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the end time, I guess if I was to look at it on timeline, it's until we actually fill the position of director full-time. He would be the interim until that's filled.
You know, we're talking about two separate things here. Commissioner Williams is talking about for the 30 days until we are able to make these reappointments. You're talking about,
That's what exactly.
You're
you just said
talking about-
exactly what I don't want to see happen, which is we're putting an interim person in place when really all we're doing right now is, you just said until filled. And
Until
that's not
filled.
what
Well,
I
and
was
that's-
talking about at
okay.
all.
They-
I'm talking about until we have the committee formed.
So even once the committee's formed, and they would still have to do their portion with their bylaws,
That would be
You-
the committee does that.
for that portion, correct.
I
But
don't,
the
wouldn't
other-
want the interim director to do that. I would want the committee to do that.
You would hope. I mean, let's face it, I mean,
we have to look at, okay, no,
Yeah.
never mind. Apologies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I can see your point where you wanted to end at that end of that 30 days.
Or basically,
the
it
committee
ends,
still wouldn't
it
have the
ends when we
direction.
fill this, when we fill this committee. So the committee is filled, now they do their role. They write their bylaws, they work through their bylaws, they write their policies.
Yep.
It's the committee who does that, not the interim director.
But is not the interim director at that point the one that interfaces with the administration? For the
What's the point?
processing of those? Well, even if the committee actually says, and the other admin portions you just mentioned are taken care of, and they're like, yep, we need to do X, Y, and Z for X individual, that right now would have to go to the interim director, or would be the normally director when it's there. They're the ones that would interface through the administration for those funds to be released. It wouldn't be one of the board members that would have, how would they be authorized?
But right now, it's
We-
our VSO that does
Okay,
it.
Right.
so we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jensen to appoint Dave Xavier as our interim VSO, or
VSD.
that's right,
Yes.
thank you, until the position is filled. Can we get, and Commissioner Williams asked for an amendment. We had long discussion, doesn't seem like that's gonna happen.
Actually, that was not the original motion.
Apologies.
Because the original motion did not have until it was filled. I
Apologies.
just mentioned that during the discussion.
Apologies.
The original motion is just to have an interim director. And I'm saying, can we modify that motion to be until the committee is formed?
I'd modify, I'll amend my motion to include
Okay.
the.
So who had supported?
Yeah.
Support?
Let me make sure she gets it.
Okay, until the committee is formed.
Yeah, until the committee's formed. And then that way, the policy that they're gonna need, that would authorize him to be able to do that in that timeframe during when we're reposting for those positions.
Right.
So that would be the first one.
Okay. So just for clarification, Nancy, can you read the motion back to us, please?
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Jensen and seconded by Commissioner Williams to appoint Dave
DeXavier.
DeXavier, that's it. Dave DeXavier, interim director, until the Veterans Affairs Committee is formed.
Yes.
Okay. And that was supported by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And then I would also make a motion that we repost the, I just had it.
Follow the
Apologize.
process.
I'm sorry?
Follow the process
Yeah,
as listed
correct.
in the
Yes.
Public Act.
There would be
Yes.
the appointment for the
Veterans Affairs
Veterans Affairs
Yes,
Committee.
committee.
Yep, perfect.
Repost.
Yes.
Or put the notice.
The
Well,
notice.
it's a notice, but it also has to get posted, and it also has to go out to the service organizations.
There's a motion on the floor.
Second support.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Then
opposed? Motion passes.
can we make a motion to include Mr. Jensen as the second signatory with such committee, or with such
mean with the
appointment?
director?
Yeah, under the director. Just so
The
we,
interim director?
just in case we have that emergency come up and we have the second person signing for it, so it's not just one.
So you're saying if there is an emergency service that needs to be provided to a veteran, that the interim director would seek the second signature of
Yes, that
Mr.
sounds brilliant.
Jensen, Commissioner Jensen.
Thank you.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Williams. Discussion? You got that, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other stray motions
Any other
out there?
motions?
Any other motions?
No, I
I
think
think that takes care of our stepping in it, so.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Fixes our mistake.
All right, we're moving on to number 19, hiring committee for the Veterans Affairs Director.
I brought forward 2 applications that we received to the Personnel Committee for discussion. They have recommended that the Board of Commissioners create a special committee to review applications, interviews, and recommend a director for our Veterans Affairs Department. Same process as we're doing with the airport manager position, so,
Are you looking
So-
for a motion of who?
right, they're looking for.
Well,
So, first of all, we would just like to, I would like to open up to discussion, but we're looking first to see if we want to have a hiring committee, and then second of all, who we would put on the hiring committee.
So I would like to see a hiring committee. A couple veterans would be great. I mean, it is a veteran organization, so veterans should be there. At least, I mean, ideally, the Veterans Affairs Committee would
Do it.
do it, and then with a little bit of oversight from our board. But since we don't have that right now, I would like to see a couple veterans. Kacharny, he's huge. He'd be a name I'd want to ask. Not, I mean, I don't know him personally, but just, I mean, you just hear his name and you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I've seen him around. But yeah, and then any other suggestions?
Well, the way we did it for the airport was 2 commissioners, our administrator, an airport advisory board member, and
General aviation.
Unify in general aviation. So we took a little bit from everyone. So if we wanted to follow that same scope, it would be 2 commissioners, which Commissioner Jensen was appointed. He's also the chair of finance. If we wanted to have 1 person from personnel, albeit you or I, and then, and then
Recommend that it would
Ashley.
be you as the chair of personnel then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Pat. It's just a title.
And you got free time.
Hey, now. That's true. That's true. But I would also like to offer it up to you.
Thanks.
And then we could go from there. Of course, our administrator would be involved. And then veterans.
How would we make a determination of who?
Yeah, how do we make that determination? That would be the hard part.
We have an application pool that we could probably pull from, because it's an unofficial pool of people that are community-oriented and want to get involved.
How do you feel about that, administrator?
If that's what the commission wants to do, I don't see an issue. We do allow individuals outside. So when you mean the application pool, you mean the ones that we are?
Yeah, all the Veterans Affairs guys. I mean, we would normally use them to do the hiring anyways, and so, I mean, they don't officially have the job anymore, but it would be nice. I mean, they were kind enough to say that they were willing to be a part of our community. So I would want to use a couple of them.
So I guess then the easiest way to prevent any kind of potential favoritism or bias is you literally, the recommended list that came forward, put all their names in a hat and draw 2 names.
That's exactly what
I
fine.
think that's a great
Yes.
idea.
Yep. I
What
was gonna
could
say the
we?
same thing.
Because there was more than the applications that were presented, so can we
That's
just
correct.
take all of those? And
All
just-
of them.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. That way everybody's got a fair shot.
Every
and-
person who's applied thus far
Yep.
that
Okay.
qualified.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so I would be looking for a motion first to have a hiring committee.
So moved.
Okay? Just that we're going to have the hiring committee.
Okay, I'll support.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And then second, I'll be seeking the motion to appoint the people to the hiring committee.
A motion to approve the formation of a hiring committee involving 2 veterans 2 commissioners, 1 administrator, and a partridge in a pear tree. I think
Okay,
that's
do
it.
we want to decide on the commissioners right now?
Let's do that first, and then, as a chair, you typically get to nominate, who gets to be on that, committee.
Oh.
Yep.
And you're the acting chair right now. So that would be my motion.
Okay, so for 2 veterans, 2 commissioners, and the administrator.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion?
I'll support.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
go ahead, Chris.
Support.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
I'm just trying to think of, because I wasn't expecting the outside. Would there be any significant issues of having the general public participate directly in the interview process
The only thing that I could think of,
because of privacy information that comes through in the application?
We-
I would be concerned. I know we've reached out like with tenants and stuff, but I guess we didn't include them as like the general.
right, so I guess one thing, if that was a concern, could they sign an NDA, a non-disclosure
Oh,
agreement?
Lord.
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
that's what's a concern, I mean, the group of individuals, they would be, that are in that pool are already individuals that would be working
So I have a
with
question. If
other
s-
sensitive information.
If someone were to FOIA an applicant, what would you give them? If there's, people apply for jobs all the time.
Correct.
Someone
Depends on
FOIAs,
what-
I want to know who applied for all of the director jobs. What would you give them in a FOIA?
So it depends on what point of the process that we're in. If we have not interviewed anybody, then we don't have to relinquish the applications. But once they begin the interviews, then we would, and then of course look at the privacy, et cetera, type.
Probably just the names we would give out.
Wouldn't we strike like addresses, phone numbers?
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Private information.
Private
Yeah,
information,
so
personal.
why not, when
not
the
just do
applications
that?
come into the committee, just strike the
Yeah.
phone numbers and addresses?
Yeah,
The
Are you
personal
okay with that?
information.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be prior to, well, let's say it's just prior to the interview,
Mhm.
because they'd be screening the applications.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would
Is that
work.
okay?
Yeah.
Works
Yeah,
for me.
I think that would be fine.
Okay,
And I did that with the airport manager position. I
Mhm.
did strike out all the
Mm-hmm.
private information.
Because
Yep.
the airport board is the same, I mean, they're.
well, we had a
not-
general aviation tenant and a
There
Unify
you go.
representative,
Yeah.
in that process as well, who are considered.
Okay.
Public, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have support. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So now I have to,
And
You
then
need
we,
to appoint the
okay.
commissioners.
I would like to appoint, do I nominate or just appoint?
Just
you would
appoint.
appoint and then we ratify.
Okay. I would like to appoint Commissioner Jensen and Commissioner Johnson.
Sounds good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I know you have so much time on your hands.
Do you need that for support then?
Yeah.
Need-
Please.
Motion to ratify the
That's-
chair's decision.
Thank you.
And I'll support.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Johnson, a support by Commissioner Jensen. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on.
Okay, wait,
Oh.
one more thing.
Sorry, Nancy. Thank you.
You talked about authorizing an amount for the interim director. Do you want to authorize an amount for the interim director? Up to?
Per occurrence. Did we talk about 1,000? Did that
Dave?
sound efficient, Mr. Xavier?
Dave, would you take the podium? In discussion with this, we had discussed, an amount, for,
Was
for
this
emergency
discussed at
purposes.
personnel? Is that what
No,
you're
this was
talking
just
This
discussed.
was
Oh,
just
gotcha.
discussed, that's what Nancy's asking. Is 1,000 for emergency purposes, is that adequate for us to allow an allowance up to?
Per occurrence.
Per occurrence?
Yep.
Okay.
about? Okay.
So we make the motion to allow the Veteran Service interim director the ability to spend up to $1,000 per occurrence for the emergency relief of our veterans.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the additions to the agenda, moving on to number 20, resignation of J. Cal, request for lump sum payout and to fill airport operations specialist position.
I move that we accept the resignation of Jay Kell.
It's okay.
And-
Ashley was gonna say.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
go
I was
ahead.
like, no, I was gonna say this is normal course of business, so
Oh.
I think we don't need an introduction.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna make the motion that we accept the resignation and then, submit a letter, thanking him for his many years of service to the county.
Support.
And to fill the airport?
I was gonna do that one separate, but yeah, I can do it in the same one. I'll amend my motion to include rehiring and, or refilling.
Filling the
Yes.
position.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jensen, support by Commissioner William. Any further discussion? I'd just like to wish Mr. Kell a happy retirement. Well deserved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I have a request, we just did this for dispatch. Would the commission be open to also doing the same thing, on crossover training? If we do receive an applicant, prior to Mr. Kell's departure?
Would the funds come out of the dispatch budget? There would be no.
No, the airport.
It's for airport.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Similar to what we did with dispatch
But it
with
would
the
come out
over.
of the airport.
Gotcha.
I believe, and this has not went through finance or personnel. I just received the resignation yesterday, but we are currently not paying two salaries. I think it would be within the budget of the airport before this would hand over and allow the individual that would be filling Mr. Kell's role, some training.
And we do have past precedents for this in the airport or in the airfield.
And if we delay the amount of work and time spent with the other employees is going to be exorbitant. So
Yes.
I would seek a motion for that, please.
So moved.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Johnson, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Lastly, number 21, schedule an additional meeting. Ashley?
So as the way the process is going forward with the airport manager, we're, like Commissioner Vagenhoven had said, we're doing all of our follow-up interviews this week. We're hopeful that what is it, Sunday?
Sunday is our last one, yes.
Our Sunday is our last one. They will have a recommendation that will present to the Airport Advisory Board on Monday. They will also have a recommendation to the
Full board.
commission. So we're looking for a meeting on March 11th to extend an offer to an individual, potentially.
Would that be a morning meeting? Are you suggesting a morning meeting?
Do you remember what we said?
That was a different meeting, so different day.
No, Commissioner, I was just wondering about when we talked today, when we talked about this, Kelly.
About the additional meeting?
Yes, I'm gonna pull up the schedule of the board. So it would have been the 11th.
The 11th. I think we looked at the,
Yeah, so the boardroom is only available morning until 1 PM.
And I'm available in the morning. That works
Morning.
well.
how about you, Pat?
I have a health department finance board at 9, and then I work at 10. So it'd be like 7.
PM or AM?
That was AM, which you folks,
Yeah, I'll commit at 7. Yeah, that's
I'll have
fine.
to stay up all night to make that.
But do Ashley and Nancy want to
Yeah.
come in at 7 AM? That's, we have to think about them as well.
I can make that happen.
I
It just,
That's gonna have a
Oh, I don't like it
torture.
either.
It's a small form of
Ashley?
torture.
Right? I mean, or
That starts, before your normal.
Yeah, that starts before Ashley's normal hour.
So your other meeting is at 9?
at 9.
7:30?
Sure. I mean, if we think we can get it done before that, and the meeting's here, so it's just a quick hop.
Well, what agenda item are we voting on this?
So the topic of an additional meeting doesn't have to be just for the airport, because we had talked earlier about adding things onto the
Right,
agenda
I lost track.
regarding the FOIA appeal. So do we think, those would be 2? So
Items.
2 items. Do we think we can knock that out in a short amount of time?
I'm good with 8.
I'm
Yeah.
good, yeah, I'd be good with 8.
Good with 8:30 if we think we can knock it out that fast.
It'd have to be done before 10.
Discussions?
No, the health department finance meeting is at 9, and it's right across the hall.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
so maybe, 8 or 8:30?
Yes.
And is the boardroom available that time?
Yes, it's available until 1 PM.
Okay.
And this is as of March 3rd, so hopefully
Okay.
nothing has changed since then.
So let's do 8, and then that way we'll have an hour. Okay.
Okay, we'll be looking for a motion,
So moved.
okay? And that is to have an additional meeting?
On the 11th at 8 a.m.
Okay. We have a motion?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any further discussion?
With just the 2 agenda items.
So far,
Okay.
More can be added. That is
more
like-
can be added because
Yeah.
it's not a special meeting,
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
additional meeting.
I hear you.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
Tentatively.
tentatively, so that Pat can get to his other board meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving on. General public comment. It's now your time to take the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name. Welcome again, Mr. Gustafson.
Hi, my name's Gary Gustafson, I'm Zion Township. As far as the hiring committee goes, the law says that the county board needs to do the hiring, and I would really love to see the county board get to know the applicants and get to know the people and do the interviews and go through them all individually. If you want a hiring committee to do a lot of the legwork and get a lot of the crap out of the way for you, great, but it has to be done by the board. They have
will.
to know who applied, and they have to know everything about them. And that's just about, it's imperative that it has to be that way. I thank the board for working through this and making sure that veterans are getting help in the interim, and that we're gonna be setting this up legally and correctly. It should have been done right from the start, and it's pretty clear that we need some guidance as a county on grants and different stuff like that. And, you know, it's because historically this county has a hard time following the law. And it can get to be tricky if you're not constantly keeping up to date on the law and looking at that. If you're just trying to do day-to-day business, that can get tough. That's what the committee is for, to get different people with different backgrounds, with different ideas and different opinions, and not the same old crap. And you're not gonna get that by getting a committee of veterans that applied for the job to decide who gets the job. I don't think that's appropriate either, really. I'd like to see, if there is a committee, that no one that's actively applying for it actually be on the decision-making part of that. That's just something I think would probably be a better fit. But I think the committee in general should be limited, and the board needs to take full responsibility for their actions, because if you hire or assign someone to do this for you and they don't do it properly, it's on you, not them. And so this is on the board right now, because Dave wasn't in a position to do that. He was doing you a favor, you asked him to do. It didn't come out the way it was supposed to. It's your fault. That's all, you know, we can't say anything different, really. But I don't want to see this continually being a repeat thing. You have to do this as a board, you have to do the hiring, and you can't just pass it on. And before we do things, we need to go into the law to make sure that, yes, we can in fact do this, and there's people willing to do that. But if we just keep trying to charge forward, we're gonna have to continue to go backwards. And I think we can see tonight exactly how detrimental that can be to our community and to our veterans in this case. Now, we're in a position where can we help them or can't we? It should have been a smooth transition. It wasn't complicated. We just need to try harder, and I think we can. And I'd like to thank the board for doing the right thing. I definitely appreciate that. And thank you, Dave, for your service too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gustafson. Any other general public comment? Christine, do we have remote comment?
No, I just checked, and there is none.
Any other general public comment? Any other general public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, so I was at a Michigan Works meeting. There's a lot of worry in Michigan Works because of all the federal cuts. And so in anticipation of that worry, the administrator of Michigan Works recommended that the board cut 10% of their expenditures. So that's a huge hit. Some of the less productive Michigan Works branches are being closed down. Their leases are no longer being renewed. Delta, we're still strong. We're one of the most used branches. But with that, also some economic development organizations are also going to take a little cut of their funding. And so like, I'm not sure if our EDA is on that docket, but it's going to be a cut for a lot of EDOs. So that's unfortunate. During that same meeting, our CEO, administrator, she has been due for a raise for the past 2.5 years. And so she was also given a raise while we were making those cuts, which really irked a lot of us, but it was also like, what do? Do you not give a person a raise because they're making the decisions and making the cuts? But ultimately, a decision was made to give a 6% raise, which amounted to be like $8,000 a year. And that was the depressing news from Michigan Works. That's all I have.
Commissioner Williams?
I don't have anything tonight.
Commissioner Jensen?
Two. First one, we recently had Planning Commission yesterday. We had a really good turnout of individuals locally. And of course, we also noticed there was a large amount of property owners that were in that were from outside of the area that actually continued and did provide comments, which was really nice to see. There was actually a really good cross-section of individuals and their ideas. But that was one, just due to the support, it was really, really easy to see where they stood in the right direction. And, this is one of those that came to zoning that there was another option other than changing the zoning, and that was a recommendation we made. So that was one of them. The other one is, and thank you for the update from the group of the fair on the extensions. The original hope, as I pointed out in the last meeting, was for them to be able to have completion in time for the state fair. And I think now the hope where they're at on the extension is to start construction prior to the fair, halt construction during the fair, and then complete it after the fair. So the new bathhouse facility will not be open during the fair. The other item, and Administrator Young had brought up, and that was the emergency preparedness portion for the fair. It was one of those that previously hadn't been done on the scale that it was. It's part of the time we live in. And so it wasn't just if it was something that an individual did, it's as much natural disaster or mechanical. And the individual agencies that were there and represented had amazing input on how we would do it. One of the things nobody thinks about if you had a disaster of any type, even if it's, environmental, it's a storm.
Tornado.
Yeah, tornado. Where do we bring those, not just, okay, we want to get those people help, but where do we bring those resources to? Where do we stage those? It's even items like that had probably never been thought through. Or if there's an individual on the fairgrounds that needs assistance somewhere, is there a way that we can direct people to the right location? If you're from here, and I told you, go down by the Ruth Butler Building, I'm thinking probably most people in Delta County know where the Ruth Butler Building is. But the fact is, over the course of the time of the fair alone, we get in roughly 100,000 people into our county. That's not something that probably 80,000 people may know where it's at. So those are all individual items that will be a little more behind the scenes, but are important for the goers that are there, the fair goers that are there, that, their safety is in mind. And, it's part of the planning where we're at nowadays. So it was well thought out. And I do thank our emergency manager for putting that together. And I think there's, even before the fair starts, they'll actually do a tabletop and do a walkthrough with all the appropriate agencies and try to iron out as many possible hiccups and what will go well and what couldn't go well in advance. So the first responders and the other agencies can be as prepared as they can be for if in the event something would happen. So that was the last one. Thank you. Oh, one last shameless plug for the Citizen Planner course coming up. I'm gonna hit that one more time. If you're interested, you can go, you can even Google, go to QPAD, Delta County Citizen Planner course, and on QPAD's site, there is a link for it. There's also a link there if you would like additional information. That course does start at the beginning of next month. Sorry, thank you.
You're fine. Nancy?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Ashley?
Actually, I have a request from the commission. Is there any possible way that I could have a designee in case I'm not able to attend the Hannibal Task Force in the EDA, just with balancing the airport and all of the administrative controller duties? It's just, I would like to have a representative from Delta County there.
Absolutely.
But currently, it states the administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nobody to kind of step into that role. I've asked Commissioner Malner about this,
You wanna do it?
and he said he was willing to, but if there's somebody else, he would be more than happy to.
It would be okay, I would love to go to that one.
When is it?
So the,
If you don't know offhand, it's fine.
It's 9 AM on Fridays typically.
Okay.
right. And quarterly is the other, is EDA is quarterly.
Do you need a motion for that, or is that just
Well,
a?
So this is a question, Commissioner Melner, because it was brought up with like other appointees made, this would be a commissioner appointed as a replacement.
I think you would need a motion.
Yeah, I
A
do too.
motion to appoint, yeah. So I'll make a motion to, and actually, you're gonna have to just fill in the blanks of the committees for me. But I would make a motion to appoint Commissioner Johnson to,
The Hannibal Task Force and the Delta County Economic Development.
when Administrator Young cannot attend.
And I'd support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Jensen. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Ashley?
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, lastly, for myself, I would just like to make the public aware of two things. The Delta Conservation District's tree sale is open still online. You can go to their website, which, help me, Commissioner Williams?
Oh, deltacd.org.
.org, and click on the link for the tree sale. If you are not an online person, you can go into their office in Gladstone, and they will happily walk you through the process. That tree sale is going to be picking up in the end of April, and that is also available on their website for more information. The opioid task force is still accepting RFP applications for their grant disbursements. The deadline for that is March 31st. I would highly encourage any organization to apply for those grant funds. And the opioid task force meets on Friday. And lastly, I attended the MAC Health and Human Services Board. It was a great learning experience. We do have one other commissioner from the Upper Peninsula representing Dickinson who is on that board. And so I look forward to many great discussions regarding our health and human services and what MAC can do for our counties. Meeting schedule. Ashley, I might need help with times, okay? The next scheduled meeting now is 3/11/25 at 8 a.m. in the Service Center.
Correct.
Okay, and then we have a committee of the whole on 3/13 at 1 p.m. in the Service Center. We have a regular Board of Commissioners meeting on 3/18/25 at 5:15 in the Service Center boardroom. A regular Board of Commissioners meeting on 4/1/25 at 5:15 in the Service Center boardroom. And a regular Board of Commissioners meeting on 4/15 at 5:15 p.m. in the Service Center boardroom. Are either one of those statutory?
The 15th.
The 15th is our statutory meeting. Okay. Notices, we have no 30-day notice of appointments, is that
Well, we
correct?
do now.
Oh, we do now. Sorry. For the Veterans Affairs Committee. So we highly encourage all to apply. And I will be seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Williams, support by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all for coming.